We have a huge win for medical freedom regarding the COVID times. Remember that time when governments lost their freaking minds? Says Thomas More Society secures historic $10 million settlement against the University of Colorado Medical School for religious discrimination. Thomas More Society legal victory protects religious liberty for all Americans. So I think they were involved in the lawsuit. Maybe their legal team went after it, but let's find out what went down. Aurora, Colorado, Thomas More Society is pleased to announce that after more than a year of settlement negotiations, following a landmark decision by the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit in 2024, the University of Colorado Anschutz School of Medicine has agreed to pay more than $10.3 million in damages, tuition, and attorney's fees to 18 plaintiffs who were denied religious accommodations to mandatory COVID vaccination. The settlement ends nearly a half-decade of litigation in federal and state court and represents a historic victory for religious freedom nationwide. Remember, they were so crazy about it. It was so weird to watch the complete craziness of the GOV, and many people got caught up in it too, right? They weaponized many people against themselves and others, which was super sinister. Let's continue. The result is one of the only in the country in which plaintiffs recovered money damages under the First Amendment for a challenge to a government's COVID-19 vaccine mandate. Government officials, including defendant Chancellor Donald Elliman, are generally protected by qualified immunity, whatever that means, qualified immunity. However, after the 10th Circuit ruled the actions of Chancellor Elliman and other defendants violated the plaintiffs' clearly established First Amendment rights, the university agreed to pay damages under the First Amendment to all plaintiffs. And let's pause there for a moment. You and I pay those damages. See, the Gov, Ronald Reagan told us back in the 80s, the Gov does not solve problems, they create them. The wars, the famines, the financial collapses, the mess of our medical system, right? They did not make, remember back in the Affordable Care Act 2011-ish, they did not make healthcare more affordable or more effective. They made it worse. Everything they touch turns to total shit. People are waking up to it. Let's continue. I'll get off my soapbox. I just get irked about these bastards, messing with things time after time. The plaintiffs who sued anonymously included former and current employees and students, including physicians, medical students, nurses, medical professionals, and administrative and operations staff. God bless those people for standing up to the tyranny. I thank them. Going forward, the university has agreed to allow students to request religious accommodations on equal terms as employees, and to give the same consideration to requests for religious exemptions, as are given for medical exemptions. Contrary to the university's actions in this case, in addition, it has agreed to refrain from future inquisitions into the supposed legitimacy of students and employees' religious. Yeah, stay the F away from us. Thank you very much. Stay in your lane, bros. Stay in your lane. Beliefs after initially denying all requests for religious exemption to COVID-19 vaccination on that pretense. Son of a gun. Unbelievable. You know who also I was proud of is Paul Davis. He's at Fired Up TX Lawyer 2, because he lost his first account. He was talking about taking employers, stupid, ridiculous, brain-damaged employers to task and winning in many lawsuits and settlements regarding the COVID thing. They have no leg to stand on. They're just stooges. They have no leg to stand on. He said it was easy to win those settlements. Let's continue. No amount of compensation or course correction can make up for the life-altering damage Chancellor Elliman, okay, this is a quote here, and Anschutz inflicted on the plaintiffs and so many others throughout this case, who felt forced to succumb to a manifestly irrational mandate, said Michael McHale, senior counsel at Thomas More Society. So yeah, Thomas More Society was involved in the lawsuit. Good for them. Standing up for freedom and sovereignty for all people. God bless them. At great and sometimes career-ending costs, our heroic clients fought for the First Amendment freedoms of all Americans who were put to the unconscionable choice of their livelihoods or their faith during what Justice Gorsuch has rightly declared one of the greatest intrusions on civil liberties in the peacetime history of the country. Amen to that judge. Amen to that judge. We are confident our client's long overdue victory indeed confirms, despite the tyrannical efforts of many, that our shared constitutional right to religious liberty endures. End quote. I love that statement. I'll probably share that out on my social media at gmarkphillips because, we need to know about these things. We need to know about these wins. I'm glad I see some articles came into the CBS, mainstream media, but we need to spread this far and wide. By the way, share this with someone who you think might want to know about it. A friend shared this with me. Sharing is caring. We need to share this type of information. If she hadn't shared it with me, I probably wouldn't have known. And it's so important. The 10th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals held that the university's widespread denial of religious exemptions to COVID-19 vaccination was motivated by religious animus. I got to look up what animus means. In fact, let's do that right now. It's probably a lawyer term. Sometimes these lawyer terms are, they're not in the general lexicon. Let's see what we got here. Animus, A-N-I-M-U-S. A feeling of animosity, of course. Of course it makes me look stupid. A feeling of animosity, ill will, synonym enmity, enemy type thing, an attitude that informs one's actions, disposed or intention. So a feeling of animosity. So this guy said, motivated by religious animus. Of course, the university had initially denied all religious exemptions via a terse email from an anonymous vaccine verify committee, concluding that requests failed to present a religious belief whose teachings are opposed to all immunizations. Okay, whatever. Although the university attempted to amend its policy in the face of judicial review, the 10th Circuit held the university's transparent litigation, posturing, and continuing First Amendment violations in the amended policy failed to moot plaintiff's case. Good for them. So it sounds like they tried to pivot and be like, oh, we're sorry. We don't want any trouble, but you got trouble, my friends. You got it. Quote, the men and women at the heart of the case are true heroes, said Peter Breen, Executive Vice President of Head of Litigation at Thomas More Society. They stood up at great personal cost to an injustice that never should have been inflicted on them or on any American. Amen to that. These are kind, compassionate medical professionals who entered their field to serve and care for others, yet they were treated with shocking disregard for their rights and scoffed at for their deeply held beliefs. They need to make a clause in the Constitution beyond religious beliefs for the belief of my government is ran by frickin' criminals, right? That's all you need to know. You will know them by their fruits. To know what they're going to do, look at what they've done in the past. Tuskegee radiation experiments, CIA medical experiments, spraying radioactive dust on St. Louis and Corpus Christi in the 50s and 60s, Bear putting tainted blood down into the blood supplies of South America and Asia because they didn't want to sell it in the United States because they would have had bigger hurdles. These people, governments and multinational corporations, predominantly the pharma corporations, are the most corrupt companies on the planet. You don't even need to have a medical exemption. You just need to know, you just need to be able to say, no, thank you. Those people are freaking criminals. I'll do a hard pass. Where was I before I got off on a tangent there? They were talking about their kind and compassionate individuals. They were scoffed at for their deeply held beliefs because they had the courage to say no when their religion's freedoms were trampled. People of faith across the country now enjoy stronger protections. Amen. And yes, they do. They deserve every bit of justice they've received in this case and more. This is such an awesome win for humanity. Thomas More Society attorneys filed the initial federal lawsuit in September of 2021 in the U.S. District Court for the District of Colorado against the University of Colorado. The chancellor of the Anschutz School of Medicine and the school's senior associate dean of medical education. The original lawsuit was filed for a Catholic doctor and a Buddhist medical student who were unable to take the VACCINE due to their deeply held religious convictions. In October 2021, more than a dozen additional staff and students were added to the lawsuit. Yeah. Once you open the floodgates, people come out. But when they're in full tyrannical mode, it's scary to stand up to them. It can be scary to stand up to them. As part of the settlement, the university agreed to pay $1 million in attorney fees. Good for them. Nobody, quote, nobody should be coerced into choosing between their faith and their livelihoods, as I and many others at CU Anschutz were forced to do at the whim of ideological bureaucrats. Amen, said plaintiff Madison Gould, who sued under the pseudonym Jane Doe 9. CU's total disregard for our careers and livelihoods gutted the years of study and self-sacrifice poured out by so many in the pursuit of serving the weakest among us. None of that mattered to the university. God bless the lawyers at the Thomas More Society who worked tirelessly to see this case through to the end. We never forget. We're forever grateful to them for standing by us when no one else would, and for journeying with us for nearly half a decade to this case's ultimate and successful conclusion. May our nation never witness anything like this travesty again. Amen to that. Let me know what you think in the comments section down below. I appreciate you for watching, and please share this with as many people as you feel inspired to do it. And I'm everywhere at GMarkPhillips on social media, etc., talking about these events that are unfolding in our world, helping us to remain free and sovereign as we move forward in the face of, criminals doing what criminals do. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you very much.